Self-development requires the acknowledgement of the three major components of the sense of being. If you want to be mentally sufficient as a human being, you need to first acknowledge these three major components of being: self-love, self-confidence, and self-esteem. Self-love is like a foundation. Self-confidence is the action, while self-esteem is the evaluation. Self-esteem is evaluative. It is the internal judge that questions your actions, your integrity, your beliefs, and the things you stand by. It is constantly evolving too. The more you grow, the more you experience life, the more your inner critique that evaluates your self-esteem grows with you. I know a lot of us have been in the situation where we find ourselves questioning our actions and the things that we're doing. That is your sense of being, estimating your values by your beliefs and the actions that you're taking to reinforce those beliefs. Now, this is totally different from self-confidence. However, you can be a really confident public speaker still struggling with low self-esteem. Have you ever worked so hard for something, and when the required result comes with success, you start questioning if you're truly worth it? You start questioning if all you did was even enough to warrant such success. That is the major symptom of a shaky self-esteem. How you see yourself truly and deeply matters. Building a solid self-esteem requires you to develop self-love and self-confidence, and combining both components to value your worth by, first of all, developing a radical self-acceptance. I talked about this in my video where I dissected the concept of self-love. You need to accept your flaws. And when we are talking about accepting your flaws in relative to self-esteem, it is beyond just being happy with your flaws. Being accepting and happy with your flaws is self-love, is an act of love. But when it comes to self-esteem, you're not just accepting and loving your flaws. You are also not letting the flaws deteriorate your value. You are not letting it determine your worth. You are not letting it be attached to your esteem. Take for example, there are people who constantly question their worth in the labor market because they don't have a degree. Now, most of these people can have the skill required to actually get the job done. But because they don't have the degree and they know that in the labor market, you need a degree to bag jobs, they start questioning their worth. They start questioning if they can apply for jobs. That is what self-esteem is about. That estimation you're giving to your skills and the qualifications that you have is what self-esteem is about. So, academically, you don't have that self-esteem because you don't have a degree. But to develop a healthy self-esteem, you don't have to let the lack of a degree determine your value as a person. You don't have to let your lack of a degree determine how people should treat you. You don't have to let your lack of a degree affect how you relate to other human beings or how you see yourself in a gathering of educated people. Secondly, you cannot think your way into self-esteem. It doesn't work like that. If there is a flaw that is within your control, develop it. Do better. Make yourself a better person. If it is a college degree you feel you don't have that is making you question your worth so much, that is within your control. Go back to school. Get the degree. It's never too late though. The age at which you go back to school does not really matter. What matters is you're developing yourself. That is how it works. As long as you're alive, you can get more education. You can seek knowledge. You can always do better. Develop yourself. If you're insecure about how you look, that is constantly making you question your values, your worth, then focus on how you can enhance your look. That is within your power. That is within your control. Get good clothes that make you feel good about yourself. Get good apparel with colorful or colors that you really love. Wear good stuff. Style yourself up. Look good and pat yourself in the bum that, I look good and I'm going to feel it. I'm going to own it. Do the things that enhance your look. That is how self-esteem is built. It is that simple. The little things matter. The third thing you need to do, however, is challenging your inner critic. Listen, we all have that inner critic inside all of us. We all have that negative thoughts. You're about to do something and then you start thinking, oh my God, am I really valuable? Can I really do this? Do I have the skills? Even when you do, we all have that. Am I going to make a fool of myself? We all have that inner thought in us, constantly reminding us of what could go wrong. But then think about it. You wake up one day and you're about to start a business. Would you go to an enemy that you know hates you and start outlining how you need to get capital, how you need to invest in a business, an idea that you think is impressive enough to venture in, and you tell them that you start explaining all of this to the enemy and telling them, asking for their opinions? Of course you would not. So if you would not do that, why would you listen to the negative thoughts inside your head? If that motherfucker speaks, kick it out immediately. That is not his space. A negative thought is not supposed to govern your thoughts. It is not supposed to have a say in your life. It is not supposed to determine how you are as a human being. A negative thought shouldn't have a place in your mind. Will it always be there? Of course. Are we giving it enough power to hinder us from doing the things that we're going to do and question our value? Of course not. So when you clock it, you chase it out. Who are you? Get out of my head. I am confident. I love myself enough to venture into this. I am confident that by the things that I've done in the past, by my experience and my skills, I can do it. And do it knowing that you're valuable doing it. That is how you develop self-esteem. That is how you develop a really blissful sense of self. It is that simple. Don't let nothing, whether it is internal, whether it is external, don't let it attach itself to your esteem so much that it starts to deteriorate it. There is no space for negotiating your values. You shouldn't allow it. Nah. And the last thing you need to note is protecting your energy. Say no and stand by it. Don't negotiate your values. Because when you give people so much access to you, when you let everyone have access to you, you're not only training them that you're not valuable, you're also teaching your brain that your needs are not valued. And that is dangerous to you. To you, it is dangerous. And you should be the most important person in your own life. See, a lot of us are 9-to-5ers. And trust me, a lot of 9-to-5ers don't joke with their closing time. We don't. You see, as a 9-to-5er, you have a resumption time and you have a closing time. And honestly, a lot of structures have been put in place to tell you that you have the right to demand an extra pay. If the organization you're working for demands you to work extra time, it is within your right to demand extra pay because your time is valuable. Your resumption time and your closing time should not be negotiated. That is the same principle that applies to setting boundaries and standing by it. You don't let anyone shake your no so much, so hard, that you have to now give it a second thought and be like, okay, maybe, or yes. No, let your no be no. And let people respect it. Train people on how to respect your decision. Train people on how to respect your boundary. That is what self-esteem is about. It is always that simple. Managing your value is like managing your time. You should not negotiate it. And if there is anyone that will be privileged enough to enjoy a compromise from you, you should be sure to have screened the person, knowing for sure that they are worthy of the privilege. You don't just give anyone access to you. No! Do the right thing by making yourself the biggest priority. In your life, you should be the biggest person. You should be the king, the alpha. You dictate what happens, not other people. Not your mom, not your parents, not your siblings, not even your partner, not even your boss should decide what happens in your life. You are an entity governing yourself. Your sense of self is tied to your actions, the decisions that you make, your beliefs, and the things you stand by. your integrity, and your qualities. That is what your sense of self is about. The more you keep negotiating your values and compromising and giving access to everyone, the more your value drops. A really valuable product is not always in demand. And please, I am not advising you to develop a level of self esteem that is so high that you start becoming a narcissist. No, I'm talking about a healthy level of self esteem, the kind of self esteem that can always back you up, knowing that you've got your own back, constantly noting the things that aligns with your values and your goals and working with it. Steady cultivating habits that would help you reach your goal faster. That is what having a healthy level of self-esteem is about. You see, by doing all of this, you're not just signaling to others, but most importantly, you're also teaching your brain to believe that you are a person of high values and you deserve respect. If you would let me steal a moment from your time, I would like to quickly remind you that if you're ever not in the mood to watch videos, I have made audio versions available just for you. You can listen to the audio versions on Spotify and Apple Podcasts by searching Psychodynamics of Growth by Kelvin Odenisi. Thank you so much for your time. I'll be dragging the curtains close now. Thank you so much. See you when the next video drops.